Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Model Car Cup Series. Well, we're back on our Unified Scale Automotive Content Creators 1970 Plymouth. Got a ton to do. Originally, this was supposed to have been done on the 15th, but due to an injury, and guys, once again, let me echo my appreciation for postponing it so I could get caught back up in this. Also, I had intended to have the 32nd scale car done. My calendar showed that it should have been completed today, which obviously that didn't happen either. But one thing at a time. We're going to jump on this Plymouth and we're going to get it done. So stick around and let me show you what we're going to do. Today's trivia question: what NASCAR legend was the owner of the number 98 car during the 1997 Cup Series season? Our tires are totally finished. I used the Tamiya Weathering Master kit with the soot, and I'll show you what we did here. This is pretty simple. Remember how stark white after I stenciled those letters on there? It was pretty pretty bright. So I wanted to tone these down a little bit and give them a little bit of a used look. So what I did was, after I got, oh, and by the way, let me take this down. The valve stems, I guess you can see, the valve stems are now installed. Aren't those sharp? Okay. What you do is you take your, it's like a makeup pad or something like that. It's got a little brush on the end too. I just took the soot, rubbed it in, took a paper towel, wiped most of it back off, and then got down in here, kind of like you're dry brushing a little bit. I know the light's not that great right here, but just rubbed it all around the inside of the wheel, over the silver that's on the front hubs and the black that's on the back. Gave it a good kind of sooty look, like it's been on the track a little bit. Let me take that back down again and let you get a close-up. So you see they look a little bit smutted up, and on the white lettering I did the same thing. I took the pad, put a little bit of the soot on it, wiped a lot off on the paper towel, and then just lightly went back over the letters to tone them down to give them a good used look. So that's how I did the tires. And these weathering kits, I have them in a ton of colors. You've got a rust, and then you've got, let me reach over here, you've got one that's an orange rust, a gunmetal, a silver. So if you want to do some paint, some bare metal showing through, rubbed through, or something like that. And on your figures and things like that, there's one that's got your kind of some, this is salmon caramel and chestnut, so it's got some good colors for flesh tones to lighten up here and there too. And I'm not a figure painter, but let me tell you, they really work pretty good. Okay, so that's our tires and wheels out of the way. Now, next thing I want to go over with you is paint. TS, it went right out of my head. I think it's TS26, but I'm not sure. Is close to Petty Blue. You know what? Hold on, let me double check that real quick. I don't want to tell you something and it'd be wrong. TS23. Sorry about that, guys. TS23 in Tamiya is pretty darn close to the Petty Blue. It's not too far off. It's a little bit lighter, but it's really not far off. I like to use Model Car World. Number 2010 Super Blue, and the reason I like this is it's a dead match for Petty Blue. How do I know that? Because I have a can from Petty Enterprises. This is Petty Light Blue, Petty Enterprises. You got your paint code number, all that stuff on here. But if you'll notice some of the drips from where I've used this, we'll use this right here on the rim. Hold that up to it, and it's a dead match. I mean, that's the paint. So Model Car World did their homework and did it right. And in this era, all the cars, chassis-wise, sorry, I keep hitting that. Chassis, top, bottom, interior, top, bottom, body, everything, with the exception of The suspension components, things like that, which were the, I think it's equipment or service blue, which is a darker blue, the drive shaft, all that stuff. Everything was petty blue. And the great thing with this, airbrushing it on, this great gloss too. This is a good lacquer, hard lacquer. Polishes out beautifully, but you can use the Model Car World or 2K Clear, either one. It works great. Looks awesome. I'll be able to paint not only the entire car, but another piece that I want to be able to use with this bottle and have some left over. I have a few bottles of this, but you'll see when we're done. Okay, today we're going to take a look at a change in direction. We're also going to make our cut in our grill work. We're going to get our final sand and final primer coat and probably our base coat for our chrome here. And we're going to be about ready to go, guys. Also the interior and chassis, and we'll touch on that in just a minute. Let me reset the camera and I'll show you which way we're going to be going now. Okay, guys, if you remember, this was going to be in an on-track mode. I've got my driver figure from Jim at Salvino's. By the way, if you've not checked out some of his resin and 3D printed stuff for the stock cars, head over and shoot him an email and he'll send you a price list. You can send that to jim@salvino.us, jim@salvino.us, and he'll send you a price list and a list of what he's got. Anyway, I want to give him a shout out real quick on the figures. And by the way, he also sent a set of these headers, which were replacement headers for, I think, for the monograms. Check those out. Oops. Are those not just cool? Very nice, very nice. Anyway, on the driver figures, I got several sets because I wanted one for the modified, and I knew that was coming. And these come, if you remember, with two different heads. You've got an open face helmet, and you've also got the full face helmet. And they have the ball joints in the arms, so you can position the arms in different positions, heads the same way. And this build was going to be on track with the driver figure, but I've kind of had a change of heart on that, and I'm creating more work now. But what I'm going to do is, the more I looked at this picture, the more I like the white wall tires, the rims, that stuff. But it made me think of this ad that was in some of the stock car magazines years ago, and a few other publications as well. Is that not cool? The only chance you'll get to pass Richard Petty's Hemi. So I broke out the AMT Blueprinter service trailer. And I'm going to have to make some modifications to it after we build it. You have to put the white wall tires on there. And, oh, sorry about that. And the wheel wells for the trailer, I've just popped the tread plate back on there for the moment. But you'll notice the fenders for this thing, I'll just stick one of them in here, are just the bubble fenders, and there's another one that goes right here too, so you've got the dual set. Well, let me grab the instructions, I'll show you what it looks like. Well, there you go. But the trailer, as you see here, has one long one instead of two, so we're going to have to scratch build that. And there's a few other things on this trailer we're going to have to do some alterations to as well, and that's okay, that's okay. But I really like that, and like I said, I think I'm creating a little more work now, but that's okay. It's mine, and I'm going to do it my way. So so we're going to go with it in tow, and let's see. Oh, I want to show you on the interior too. All right, let me reset again and we'll take a look at that interior and chassis. The interior Well, first up, we've got the dash, and I've already got the final on it, the final sanding, and I may hit it one more time with some gray primer. Then we're going to do our semi-gloss black on it, and we'll deal with the instrument panel a little later. On the main interior, everything looks pretty good. All of our scratch-built stuff back here looks good, but it doesn't want to sit inside the body quite right, but it's an easy fix. So if you ever encounter stuff, don't overcomplicate it. So we're going to put this in here, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now, as this sits up to the chassis, you'll notice where we constructed all this new stuff back here, and the wheel well humps and all that stuff. You notice when I have this, well, if I can get it up there, there it goes. You notice how this is raised just a little. That is a really easy fix right there, and I'll show you. Remember our side panels that we put in here? All we're going to do to fix that is, watch this. We're going to raise that up. See, they're not glued in yet. You can see down between those, and that's why I did this. We left that kind of open, and that way I'm going to get our super glue down in here. Then I'm going to raise this, watch. And then we'll get one of our clamps, clamp that down, let it cure, and that is going to, as you see, that raises that up. And that's when it brings this package shelf piece up, that's going to drop this down. So we're going to get our fit. I've already kind of looked at where it needs to be in the car and pushed it up, and it needs to be right there. And then we'll put a little plastic piece right here so we don't have a gap when we're looking in the back window here. So that'll be an easy fix. We're going to be scratch building our roll bars. If you remember the pictures that we have of a lot of these cars, you see a aluminum panel, as you see in this picture, that is right here, and the side bars of the roll bars are actually on the inside between the outer skin and this aluminum panel here. So the only visible roll bar you'll see is the one that comes up here, goes to the A pillar, across to where the B pillar would be, or excuse me, the center window, and then right back down through here. But all those sidebars are behind that aluminum, as I said. So that's going to be easy to do, and we'll be scratch building that as well. But once we get all this together, and we'll be doing that today too. Now, if you remember, these wheel wells were all scratch built, and we made more like tubs back here, and they fit up to these tubs, so it gives us our clearance. To set the suspension ride height on the trailer right, I am going to have to remove the upper A-arms, I think, and adjust those a little bit. And as we get to that, we'll look at it one more time. I'm thinking it might need to be adjusted a little bit, but I'm not totally sure yet. That's one of those things, guys. So when you're plugging along on stuff like this, converting something, it sometimes can be a problem. The other thing we're going to do, on the interior too, rear view mirror. I've got to scratch build a little piece, and we'll do that on camera and let you see that. That goes right here, as you see in this picture. So we'll be adding that. I've cut the stem off there, and we'll be adding that to the rear view mirror and making that piece. Now, on the body, or excuse me, the windows, we got a little issue here. As you recall, to make it a race car, we had to remove the vent window here. But our window, our kit window, still has that piece in there, even though the rail here is gone and all of that. And a lot of times this stuff can be brittle, and you've got to be careful. And what we don't want to do is just go inside, draw a line right in the center, and then well, get it held in place there. I don't want to just draw a line right in the center and then cut right there, because we may have a problem right here with seeing where we cut it. So we want to be very careful. We want to cut as little as possible, and then we're going to have to round and reshape that just a little bit. Now that sounds like a lot of work, but it's not going to be, and we'll do that as well. We'll get our final primal body after that, and I think that'll do it for this time. I don't know. Let's see how far we go, how long the video gets, and then we'll go from there. Okay, stick around. If you answered the trivia question, Cale Yarborough, get yourself a cookie. You're right. Our interior is propped back up as I showed you where we were going to drop the super glue down in there and raise this up a little bit, and we went ahead and did that. So let's give it a try, and this time we're going to put our dash in, we're going to put the windshield in, and then we're going to try our fit and see how it looks here. So let's go on and do that. That's going to be kind of hard with that dash being loose, so I'm going to have to keep a thumb in here a little bit. And let's see. There we go. All right, we got our pegs here, so we'll hold it there. And check that out. Right up against it. It's not raised up as it was. Sticking up, remember. Not even on this side. Let me make sure I get that up. There we go. All in place, and it fits nice and flush. So we'll have that inside, feel that, it just right up against it beautifully, beautifully. And we've got our half of package shelf, and then you see through the window down there the, well, where the shock mounts will be, the little panels for those will be. Dash looks good, but I did have a problem. And it's one of those things where I told you, if something like that fit happens, don't worry about it. We don't want this getting scratched up. Let me drop it back in a bag. And I did. Apparently, I got a little too much super glue down between the plastic panel and this side piece. And when I held it while I was reaching to grab the clamp to put on here, I kind of glued my thumb to it. So when I ease that away, and of course that's super glue, you see the little thumbprint that's down in there. And no big deal, guys. All I'm going to do is take some 400 grit sandpaper, and we're going to take that out. And the biggest issue I had, and it's still an easy fix, is, let me grab my pointer here, where this panel is gonna, this aluminum looking panel, you see how the thing is sliding, kind of pushing it off right when you get to there. Some of the super glue kind of squirted up between it, and it's not even. And when we get primer or paint on that, it's going to be bad. And the other side, and by the way, I had to trim these back up again too, but on the other side, the same thing happened. A little bit of the glue, well, it just got right down in there. But I want that line to be distinct, so I'm going to rescribe that with my scribing tool. But first, I'm going to take our sanding pen, and I'm going to, and this, remember, it's got some super stiff fiberglass strands. I'm going to run this out just a little bit, maybe about that far. And then what we'll do is we'll hold this down, and we'll start just sanding away. These sanding pens are something for this kind of thing. In fact, let's just do it here a minute. Right in that center part where it was. You see the little sanding stuff there. Now let's see if that's got it yet, or if we need to keep going. So, oh, look at there. So we took some of that super glue residue out. Now it's going, so we've got an edge again. And I may scribe that again too. Now we're going to go on and do the other side, and we'll get some primer on it. And as soon as I get the primer on it, I'm going to come back and we're going to take a look at this mirror. This is the look we're going for the mirror. As you see, the bracket that holds it on has the two holes, as you see in these. The same thing on the Superbird. And so, isn't that kind of cool? So what we're going to do to start is I've got a piece out of my scrap bin of sheet plastic. This is 10 thousandths. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's 10 thousandths. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take and lay that right in the middle. Let me make sure we're in the middle here. Right there, and on the bottom. Kind of get it. Well, I'm being all squirrely here, aren't I? Right there. Then I'm going to take my dental pick. I'm going to come down about yay far. Some things you don't need measurements, just make sure they're centered. Of course, when I cut this out, it's going to be about right anyway. Make my little indentation there. I'm going to come down, and again, I'm eyeballing this. Let me make a little bit deeper indentation there, and then we'll come down, oh, I guess about that far. And make another one. There we go. See if you can see these. So there's my two holes. And I'm going to take a number 66 drill bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill both of these out the same size. And I'll run that all the way in, wring that out, then come down to the bottom and do the same thing. And I know those were two different sizes, right? Well, all right. So we've got our holes. Now that doesn't look exactly right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean those up a little bit. Oops. That kind of stuff happens too. There we go. And I have a fresh X-Acto blade in here, so what I'm going to do is, well, first what I'm going to do is take some 400 and kind of lightly sand both sides. And to make that top hole just a little bit bigger, I could go to a different size drill bit, but instead of doing that, I'm going to take my new blade in my X-Acto. Oops, it's a chisel blade there. And we're going to go to the top hole, and we're just going to ever so lightly go in, and I'm talking very lightly, and I'm just going to turn the blade, and I'm going to open that top hole up just a little bit. Needs a little bit more. And if it looks off center, don't worry about that. And it's looking as I do this like it is a little more off center. Yeah, see there, it's getting a little bigger. And by the way, if it looks like it's off, I'm just going to make it a little bigger on this side. Centered it right back up. How about that? Well, if it'll focus. And I've got some sanding dust to get out of that one, or drilling dust to get out of that. And I'm going to push this through there just a little bit, and through this one. And looky there. Now what we're going to do from here is we're going to even it up. And how we're going to do that is we're going to put it on our lines again, center it, and we're going to cut it right to, oh, say right about there. And we've got it straight on the lines. All right, and now we're going to take and cut our kind of triangle, you see their angle, and go to the other side. And guys, take your time with this stuff. There's no real rush. And sometimes I cut them too small, too whatever, and I end up having to do 2, sometimes 3 of them. Thing is, have fun while you're doing it. When you can see the finish at the end, it makes all the difference in the world. Let me get this thing glued on here. I'll be right back. All right, so I told you that I sometimes have to make two. Well, after I got that one out and got it glued on for a second, I looked at it, and it was to me, it was too short on the top, so I made a second one real quick. And as you see, I think that turned out really nicely. If I can get it where you can see all the holes there. Nice and round, I think, and this is painted petty blue, as you saw in the pictures there, and that'll be up. And remember, Superbird had the same one. I've got pictures of that, and I'll be posting that stuff later too. So our mirror is pretty much done. I am going to make another bracket that goes up to the roll bar, and you'll see how, I know this looks flimsy, and y'all know when you build a model sometimes how the mirrors, the inside mirrors will fall off. I'm going to fix that where this will not come off, and I'll show you how we'll do that. Boy, it's going to require one more piece of sheet plastic, and I'll probably use the leftover portion of that 10/1000ths there to do it, and you won't even see it. So this is done and out of the way, so we can get this primed, and I'll set it aside for right now. And let's go over and take a look at that window, those side vent windows we need to remove. One of the things that I've learned over the years, just with experience, is try to plan ahead a little bit. It would be easy for me to just take this this window, and by the way, we're going to be removing sections of this so the roll bar can fit better up inside the body, and besides, I just don't think that looks very realistic like that. But as I was saying, we want to plan ahead a little bit, so we're going to get the window in here, and where this vent window needs to come out, I don't know if I can get my hand where I want it, we could just mark right in the center of the A-pillar and cut right there. But again, you don't want to do that and then look to here and be able to see a big gap in the corner. So I always cut them big and then slowly, little by little, sand them down. But, so I'm going to make a mark out here. And now that sounds like a plan, right? But we got to remember that there's something else that's going to have to go against this A-pillar. And that is a roll bar. Now, the roll cage, I took a 20, and keep in mind that this kit is 24th scale, so I took a monogram 24th scale, where'd my caliper go? There it is, roll cage, and we're going to measure in scale, because these things are pretty accurate. You see it's 80/1000ths, oops, on both sides, yep, and again, 80/1000ths. I usually check it in a lot of places to make absolutely sure. So we know we've got 80/1000ths. So I grabbed my pack of number 212 80/1000ths rod, and we're going to be making a lot of this roll cage anyway. And I am also going to use a portion of Plastic Performance Products roll cage, basic roll cage set. And what I want to do is I want to put this right here where that roll bar is going to be going right up against that A-pillar. And I don't know if the light's going to let you see that quite right. But I'm going to need to cut that windshield to allow for that to be sitting there too. So we're going to use this and sand on it just little by little by little. So how we're going to do this is we're going to mark, that's going to roll off if I don't move it. We're going to put this in nice and snug. I'm going to take a Sharpie, and we're just going to make our mark on the outside here. This way I've got extra room to cut that back. Oops. As you can see, there's our mark. We'll do the other side. I popped that out before I got to it. I'm going to left hand this one. Making it a little big is the safest way to do it. All right. Now the first thing you would think to do is, well, that'll be easy to do. All I got to do now is just take my sprue cutters and let me tell you, don't you dare This thing will split all to pieces. Let me grab my saw. Stick around just a sec. Let me reset. So we have our marks made. And what I'm going to do from here, I mentioned I was going to use my saw blades. If you remember, I've got these photo etch ultra fine, and they go right in your Dremel. I hope you can see the teeth on there. You've got some coarse and then some really fine. Boy, that's an old one. But hey, they still work just fine. Teeth, but I'm going to do this a little differently this time, I think. I'm going to try it on one side anyway. And notice I put a paper towel down. Do that with or a t-shirt or something. I just didn't want to grind this into this, even though it's something that I'm not going to be using. Take my Murphy's rule, and you can still get these things real cheap, little metal 6-inch ruler at, I think Harbor Freight's where I picked up 3 or 4 of them at once. Line right up on my mark there. Hold that down. And I'm going to use the back of just a number 11 blade, a fresh blade. And I am just going to slowly make several cuts and lines. Something, if I wanted to do the saw, I could go back and do that now, because I've got a groove, something to kind of guide it on. But I'm going to keep going here until I pop through this thing. And I don't want to just scribe it like you would a piece of glass and then just go, okay, snap. I'm going to risk splitting the plastic up in here, and I do not want to do that. So I'm just going to continue to do this until I pop through. It might take a minute or two, but that's fine. So you don't have to sit all the way through it. I'm going to go ahead and do both sides. Oops. Do both sides, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back, and we've removed our vent windows from the window, and very smooth. And remember, we just used the back edge of an X-Acto and just lightly, and I do mean lightly, don't bear into it, because if this thing were to slip and go across the windshield, you'd have a mess. So lightly scoring, and this whole thing, it might have taken 8 minutes, but it was less than 10 minutes, just nice and slow scribing until these just got to the point where you could see they were moving a little bit, and then I just took and popped right off. Hardly anything holding them on. Now let's see how we did on just our first cut. Now you see this, the vent windows are gone from there, and look how smooth that is. And that's just from slowly scribing. Now I'm still going to take our sanding stick, and I'm going to smooth them up, and we'll bring them in as we need to for the roll bar. But let's see how it fits. Okay. All right, there you go. You see we got that little extra right there, and that's okay. That's okay. I want to bring that in until that roll bar, let me grab that real quick. That 80 thousandths. Well, let me get where you can see it. Is going to be able to come right up through here. See, it does need to go in just a little bit, but I've got to be careful not to bring it too far in here. So this is one of those things that's just patience, guys, just patience. I could leave the windshield like it is and run this down here. I just don't think it looks right. It needs to hug that A-pillar. It's going to look a whole lot better right up against that. Well, let me get on camera there. Right up against that versus being set out a little bit. We want a good flush fit. We want that thing right in here. So that's what we're shooting for. So I'm going to work that down a little bit. And actually, you know, I'm really pleased with the way that looks so far. That's actually not bad at all. All right. Well, I'm going to work on that. And we may revisit this in the next video. This video has gotten far longer than I wanted it to. But that's just the basics of how to do that, how we snip these out. And I'm a hoarder, by the way, when it comes to model parts. I have no clue what I could use these for, but I'm keeping them. That's just the way I roll, guys. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and start working these down a little bit. And before I get into this, let's go over and look at that grill real quick. And we'll probably just close it out with that. So stick around. All right, so we've taken our grill, if you remember, and we sanded it much thinner all the way through where our headlights buckets were. And remember, we thinned this down to the point where when it goes in, it's nice and flush. There's no protrusions or anything. It's nice and flush with the front end, and that really makes the hood look good. It fits right down on there beautifully. Check that out. Looks good. Now, what we were going to do, though, is we're going to take this grill and we're going to cut out, as you see in this picture here, the section where the screen is. And I've already started scoring my lines. And again, we're using just the back of a fresh number 11 blade. And I went in from these little louvers that you see in the thing here. I counted in 3 from this headlight, 3 from this side. And you can see where I started to, well, hopefully, yeah, there you go. Just scribe. And how I did that was, get down here where I can see on camera, yeah. And basically, until I went through, and I've done the same thing along the bottom here. I've got me a trench cut that goes right through, and on the top. And we'll do that till we get all the way through and then pop that out. That's going to take a few minutes, and I'm not going to have you suffer through that real quick. So stick around. Okay, we got the center of our grill cut out, and we'll be cutting and fitting our mesh, wire mesh that will go over that. And it's roughed out, but it needs to be cleaned up a little bit, so we'll take our file and we'll get in there and kind of clean all this up, even it up and square it up, all that stuff. This piece I'm not going to keep. Guys, this video has gotten really long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this one right here. And when we pick it back up in a few days, I will have this stuff kind of dressed out a little bit. Final body prep's done. We'll take a look at that roll cage and where we got with the windshield. I'm actually going to get back on that windshield right now. But we'll carry that over to the next video. I really think that turned out pretty well. With that mesh in there, I think it'll really look good. Thank you guys for tagging along on this one. If you're not a subscriber, you like what you see, head over and show us some love there. Give us a sub. Head over to the Teespring store and pick you up some Model Car Cup Series stickers, the coffee mugs, and some other merch. We've got sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, all that kind of stuff too. So there's several different styles of mugs, shirts, all that stuff. So head over there and grab you something for your toolbox. Guys, I appreciate you very much. Jesus loves you guys. I will see you in the next video. Later, guys.